Imagine driving down a lonely road at night, when suddenly, a figure appears in your headlights, only to vanish into thin air. The UK is home to some of the most haunted roads in the world, where ghostly hitchhikers, phantom carriages, and even Roman legionnaires still roam. Drivers who've encountered these spirits swear they're real, and some never make it home. Buckle up, because today we're counting down the 5 most haunted roads in the UK, if you dare. Love spine-tingling ghost stories? Help us reach 1,000 subscribers so we can keep bringing you the creepiest tales from the UK. Hit subscribe and join our haunted journey. 1 Bluebell Hill, Kent. Bluebell Hill in Kent is one of the most haunted roads in the UK, with a terrifying ghost story that has frightened drivers for decades. The legend centers around a young bride named Suzanne Brown, who died in a car crash on her wedding night in 1965. Since then, many drivers claim to have picked up a mysterious hitchhiking woman in a white wedding dress, only for her to vanish moments later. Some say she appears suddenly in the middle of the road, causing drivers to swerve in panic. Others report feeling an icy chill or hearing ghostly screams near the crash site. One of the most famous encounters happened in the 1970s when a motorist stopped for a distressed woman in a torn wedding gown. She got into the back seat, sobbing, but when the driver turned to check on her, she had disappeared. Another witness claimed their car was scratched by unseen hands after seeing the ghostly bride. Locals believe Suzanne's spirit is trapped on the road, reliving her tragic death. Some even say she's searching for her lost fiancé, who survived the crash but later died of his injuries. The haunting isn't limited to just sightings. Strange accidents still happen on Bluebell Hill for no clear reason, and some drivers swear they've felt an invisible force pulling their steering wheel. Paranormal investigators have recorded eerie voices and sudden temperature drops in the area. Skeptics say the stories are just urban legends, but with so many similar reports over the years, many believe something supernatural lingers on this cursed stretch of road. Whether it's a trick of the mind or a real ghost, one thing is certain: drivers who know the story think twice before traveling Bluebell Hill at night. 2A75, Dumfries and Galloway, Scotland. The A75 in Dumfries and Galloway, Scotland, is known as one of the most haunted roads in Britain, with so many ghostly reports that locals call it the Devil's Highway. Stretching through lonely countryside, this road has a long history of terrifying encounters, phantom figures, ghostly animals, and even vanishing vehicles. One of the most famous stories is about a truck driver who swore he hit a young girl in a white dress, only to find no trace of her when he stopped. Others have seen a ghostly woman in old-fashioned clothes wandering the road at night, disappearing when cars get too close. Another chilling tale involves a phantom horse and carriage that appears suddenly, charging straight at drivers before vanishing into thin air. Some believe these are the spirits of travelers who died on this road centuries ago. There's also a legend of a Roman soldier seen marching along the roadside, his ghostly figure glowing faintly in the dark. Drivers who've encountered him say he turns to stare at them with empty eyes before fading away. But the scariest reports come from those who've picked up hitchhikers who weren't really there. One man claimed he gave a lift to a quiet, pale-faced man who sat silently in the back seat, only to realize the man had disappeared before the journey ended. Another driver told of a woman who climbed into his car, soaking wet, mumbling about being lost, before she suddenly wasn't there anymore. Even more unsettling are the stories of cars that seem to follow drivers at high speed, only to disappear when the terrified driver pulls over. Some believe these are ghostly vehicles replaying fatal crashes from the past. Paranormal investigators have found strange energy spikes and recorded unexplained voices along the A75, adding to its haunted reputation. Whether these are just tricks of the night or something supernatural, one thing is clear: many drivers avoid the A75 after dark, afraid of what, or who, they might meet on the Devil's Highway. 3B3212, Dartmoor, England. The B3212, cutting through the lonely moors of Dartmoor, is a road shrouded in eerie tales and unexplained horrors. Many drivers who brave this stretch at night report seeing shadowy figures darting across the road or standing motionless in the headlights before vanishing. One of the most persistent legends is that of a sailor, said to have been murdered near the road centuries ago, who now wanders the area in tattered clothing, his face twisted in agony. Drivers claim to see him suddenly appear in the middle of the road, his ghostly form illuminated for just a second before fading away. Some say if you stop to look for him, you'll hear faint, desperate whispers carried on the wind, as if he's begging for help that never comes. Another terrifying encounter involves a phantom coach pulled by black horses, thundering down the road as if racing against time. Locals say it's the ghost of a nobleman who died in a crash on his way to propose to his lover. Witnesses describe hearing the frantic whinnying of horses and the creak of wooden wheels before the entire apparition dissolves into the night. Even more unsettling are the reports of a black dog, a massive, shadowy creature with glowing red eyes that stalks the roadside. Many believe it's a hellhound, a bad omen that appears before tragedy strikes. Drivers who've seen it swear it runs alongside their cars, keeping pace no matter how fast they go, before suddenly disappearing into the darkness. But perhaps the most disturbing stories come from those who've encountered the Dartmoor Watchers, tall, faceless figures seen standing among the trees or on the edge of the road, silently observing passers-by. Some believe they're the spirits of long-dead prisoners from Dartmoor's grim history, still watching the living from beyond the grave. Others say they're something far older, something that was never human at all. Whatever they are, one thing is certain, the B3212 is a road where the past never truly rests, and where those who travel it after dark often find themselves wondering if they're really alone. 4. Elm Street, Manchester. Elm Street in Manchester might sound ordinary, but those who know its history avoid it after dark. The most famous ghost here is the black-eyed child, a pale little girl who appears near an old abandoned house, knocking on car windows and begging to be let in. Witnesses say her eyes are completely black, like empty pits, and her voice sounds unnatural, almost robotic. One driver reported stopping when he saw her standing by the roadside, only for her to appear right next to his window, whispering, "Please, I need a ride home." When he refused, she scratched the car door with inhuman strength before vanishing. Others claim she follows them down the street, her small footsteps echoing even when she's nowhere to be seen. But the black-eyed child isn't the only horror on Elm Street. Locals tell of a phantom hitchhiker, an old man in a tattered coat who appears in the back seat of cars without warning. One woman driving home late at night glanced in her rearview mirror and saw him sitting there, his face rotting and his mouth moving as if he were screaming, but no sound came out. By the time she pulled over in panic, he was gone. Another driver swerved to avoid a man standing in the road, only to find the figure had disappeared, but their car was later covered in handprints that wouldn't wash off. The street's dark history adds to its haunted reputation. Decades ago, a factory fire killed several workers, and some say their charred ghosts still wander the area, their burned hands reaching out from alleyways. Others believe the land itself is cursed, long before the street was built, and that something ancient lurks beneath the pavement. Strange mists roll in without warning, and drivers report their radios cutting out, replaced by static whispers. Even during the day, people feel like they're being watched, and dogs refuse to walk down certain parts of the road. Whether it's ghosts, curses, or something worse, Elm Street is a place where the shadows never feel empty, and where turning back might be the safest choice. 5. M6, Cumbria, England. The M6 in Cumbria might seem like just another busy motorway, but drivers who've experienced its paranormal activity know there's something deeply wrong with certain stretches of this road, especially near the old Roman forts. The most famous legend involves ghostly Roman soldiers marching across the motorway at night, their spectral figures appearing suddenly in the glow of headlights before vanishing into thin air. Truckers tell stories of slamming on their brakes to avoid hitting what looks like an entire legion crossing the road, only for the figures to dissolve like mist. Some even claim to hear the sound of clanking armor and marching feet over the noise of their engines. One driver swore he saw a soldier's face pressed against his window, the ghost's eyes full of ancient rage, before it disappeared without a trace. But the Romans aren't the only spirits haunting this highway. Near the Tebay area, there are reports of a phantom lorry. A massive truck with no driver that appears out of nowhere, speeding straight toward cars before blinking out of existence. Others have seen a woman in a red coat standing on the hard shoulder, her face hidden by long, wet hair. When drivers pull over to help, she's gone, and some say their cars won't start again for hours, as if something doesn't want them to leave. The stretch near Shap Summit is even more terrifying. Locals whisper about a shadow road that sometimes appears alongside the real motorway, a darker, older version of the highway where the streetlights don't work and the exit signs lead nowhere. A few drivers claim to have accidentally turned onto it, only to find themselves driving for miles with no other cars in sight, the landscape outside their windows strangely distorted. When they finally return to the real M6, hours have passed in what felt like minutes. Whether it's the restless ghosts of Roman warriors, echoes of tragic accidents, or something even older and darker, the M6 holds secrets that defy explanation. Many drivers refuse to travel certain sections alone at night, and even skeptics admit there's an unnatural heaviness in the air along these haunted miles. One thing's for sure, on this motorway, you're never quite as alone as you think.